Before I get started with this story, I have to give a shout out to Tonda for sending it to me. But I also actually heard about this story on another channel, and I don't think it's going to get as many legs as it should. And it should definitely be put out there to the extreme measures as possible. In this picture, you see a man by the name of Scott Smith, and he is the father of a young girl that goes to this school in Loudoun County, Virginia. And basically what happened, and the article is going to probably go into more detail about it, is he basically got wind that his child, that his daughter, got assaulted in a sexual way by a teenage boy in the in the girls' restroom. Now, here's where it really gets weird and why a lot of people are against gender neutral bathrooms or restrooms. Basically, the boy was wearing a skirt and he basically proclaimed himself to be a girl. You know, that's what he decided to go as, or define or acknowledge himself as a female. And while that was going on, he ended up sexually assaulting this man's daughter. Now, this goes back to, of course, the agenda being at play and why many people are against gender neutral bathrooms and restrooms. Because if you remember what happened out in California at that spa, you had that guy who claimed that he was trans when clearly he definitely wasn't, who literally got naked in front of a bunch of women, including a young girl, in the bathroom, exposing like full frontal nudity. And then you had people that got upset and tried to make it seem like the people who were upset about it were wrong. Well, fast forward to this one right here is almost the same way, because basically what happened is this father doing what he felt was the right thing to do in the protection of his daughter. He's the one that ends up getting railroaded behind it and tried to have the same label be thrown onto him of being this and that phobic. So if y'all see what's really going on here, this is yet again, the agenda at work. Now I'm going to go ahead and stop right here and just read the article, and you'll get some more information. And then it goes even a step further than what I just told you in this summary. The Virginia father who was arrested, you heard that correctly, arrested at a school board meeting while protesting its proposed transgender policies after claiming his daughter was assaulted in a girl's bathroom by a skirt-wearing male student has slammed Merrick Garland for threatening parents who protest school boards. So you see it. This guy was protesting along with other parents about what was going on. And this is his daughter. So it makes sense that he defends her honor. And he's the one that gets reprimanded by a person over the board. Wow. That's all I have to say about that. It's gotten to that point where people who claim that they're this way and that way can literally do something like this to someone else's child, no matter the age of the assailant, and can possibly get away with it. Mainly because these adults are allowing them to do it. Remember what I was telling you about that teacher who got fired because they didn't acknowledge the gender identity of the student, and they ended up resigning because they were going to fire them anyway? Like I said, they are giving these kids way too much power, more over than the adults. Scott Smith, age 48, appeared on Fox News, The Ingram Angle, and spoke out after he was photographed being dragged out of a school board in Leesburg, Virginia, meeting this June, and was painted by the left to be a deranged right-wing bigot. Smith told host Laura Ingram that his daughter was sexually attacked at Stonebridge High School on May 28th by a boy wearing a skirt who took advantage of the school's trans policies to get into the girl's bathroom and assault her. And he slammed Attorney General Merrick Garland for clamping down on protests at board meetings. The Justice Department announced last week that the FBI would now investigate and prosecute any parent who it deems to be threatening towards school staff. The order from Garland was in response to a request from the National Board Association to Creepy Jim Crow Joe, asking him to protect them from angry parents. Garland said threats against public servants are not only illegal, they run counter to our nation's core values. Those who dedicate their time and energy to ensuring that our children receive a proper education in a safe environment deserve to be able to do their work without fear for their safety. Smith told Ingram, "That's really scary that our government will weaponize themselves against parents and using my video across the nation to spread fear. That's wrong. I am not a bully. I am not a racist. I love everyone. I love this country. I want better stuff for it." So basically what they did was they took his concern, which starts out as him defending his daughter against what happened to her, and flipping it into him being an angry, like he said, bigot. Like they literally propagandized this situation and turned it into something that it wasn't. Sounds like lamestream media for you. Smith told host Laura Ingraham that he was trying to stick up for his daughter when he was dragged from the meeting, and says his family was confronted by activists at the meeting when he spoke out against the trans policies. "I am good with gay people and cross-gender people. Anybody who wants to be a good American, I am good with. I went there to find out why our children were not safe. The next thing I know, another parent activist approached my wife and started antagonizing her, and I turned around and said, 'Stop.' He said he tried to explain what happened to his daughter, but the woman would not listen. She looked me dead in my face and said, 'That's not what happened.' That struck me. 'How do you know what happened? You don't even know me,' he told Ingram." Interesting. That person told him that, and they don't even know what happened. But see, there again, this goes again back to, this is why I said Dave Chappelle, I feel, opened up Pandora's box. When he said that you can talk about, well, you can do anything to black people, even so far as killing them, and nothing happens. And then you have this situation. I mean, but you can talk about people in the academy and then people lose their minds. And look at what's going on here. This is now talking about Hall T. Look at what just happened with John Gruden, the former coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. All those emails pop up. Was a mixture of different things, but he only gets reprimanded when he said homophobic things pertaining to the academy. But when he had stuff in there that was racist, no one said a thing except Keyshawn Johnson, but they weren't trying to listen to him. He was speaking out for years about who John Gruden was. I even heard John Gruden's nickname was Chucky, as in the doll Chucky. That says a lot. He said next thing he knew, he was tackled by an officer, and although he supports the police, he thinks things could have been dealt with better. This didn't have to happen. This could have been handled a lot differently. At the meeting on June 22nd, Loudoun County School Superintendent Scott Ziegler said the school had never had any form of incident inside a bathroom or locker room involving a transgender child. "To my knowledge, we don't have any record of assaults occurring in our restrooms," he said first. He went on to quote Time magazine research that he said disproved the notion transgender kids might sexually attack cisgender kids. I hate that word, cisgender. Why don't you just say boy or girl, biologically born male and biologically born female? "I think it's important to keep our perspective on this. We've heard it several times tonight from our public speakers, but the predator transgender student or person simply does not exist." How would they know that? You see what I mean? They are even coming out. It's almost like they're going beyond trying to defend just the person who now they can only say allegedly did this, but people who decide to live that lifestyle, period, as if they are incapable of doing that. If they are capable of getting into women's sports, especially when it comes to stuff like MMA, and beat the brakes off of them, they are definitely capable of doing something like this. Let's not forget that people who identify as trans women still biologically are men. And if they wanted to commit an act like this, they definitely could if they wanted to. But they're trying to make it seem like that like this could absolutely, positively never happen. See, they have to walk on eggshells with them out of fear that they might lose some kind of a funding. Like I said, for me, I think when it comes to stuff like this, it all goes back to money. For me, it's a money thing. 2 months after the incident, the boy, who has not been named because he is a juvenile, was arrested for forced sodomy. Did you hear that? He was arrested for forced sodomy. Keep in mind what these school board members just said. There's no way that this could happen. And look at what this boy was arrested for 2 months afterwards. And in October, he was arrested again on different charges for allegedly assaulting a different girl at a different school. He is now in a juvenile detention center. So to the people of the board who had all that stuff to say that there's no way that a person who identifies as quote unquote trans could not do something like this, what say you? That's 2 more incidents. All in the same year, might I add. And he's now in a juvenile detention center. And the thing is, all this person had to do was identify as trans. They probably would never get the operation, but they say, I'm trans. You can't say that I'm not. Now let me go to this restroom. Boom, there you go. That's all that was needed. Smith told Ingram that after he found out about the arrest, he decided it was time to speak out. Within half an hour, it was confirmed that yes, this did happen. I basically said that's it. I won't stay quiet anymore. Smith was charged with disorderly conduct and resisting arrest following the June incident. His family then retreated from the public eye, but were working with Lancaster to resolve the criminal case against the boy who assaulted their daughter. They were preparing for an October 14th court date, they say, but were stunned that when the same boy was arrested again on October the 6th, literally like, a few days later. A few days prior, at a different school in the same district. On this occasion, he was charged with sexual battery and abduction. In that case, he allegedly held a different girl in the classroom to attack her in Broad Run High School, 2.5 miles from the high school where Smith's daughter was assaulted. Smith's attorney says prosecutors told her it was the same child as was involved in the case with Smith's daughter. If someone would have sat and listened for 30 seconds to what Scott had to say, they would have been mortified and heartbroken. He said he does not know if the boy identifies as female, is bisexual, or was taking the advantage of the system. I don't care if he's homosexual, heterosexual, bisexual, transsexual. He is a sexual predator. Because the case involves 2 juveniles, there are few publicly available records, and Loudoun County will not comment or give out any information. It remains unclear why the boy in question was in a different school, where the second assault allegedly took place on October 6th, when he apparently had been in talks with prosecutors to agree to a deal for the May 28th assault against Smith's daughter. Loudoun County won't say whether or not he was ever suspended or excluded from the school system. The Loudoun County Sheriff's Office did confirm the October 6th incident, saying in a press release on October 7th, a teenager from Ashburn has been charged with sexual battery and abduction of a fellow student at Broad Run High School. The investigation determined on the afternoon of October 6th, the 15-year-old suspect forced the victim into an empty classroom where he held her against her will and inappropriately touched her. So this guy definitely has multiple cases, 1 against this boy, and 2 against that school board that, got him and dragged him up out of the meeting. Like, they literally tried to make him seem like he was the bad guy when he was right the entire time. They try to make it seem like there's no way that a person who identifies as trans, even as a child or a teenager who knows exactly what they're doing, could possibly do this to his daughter. Now, to all those Me Too heifers out there, this is a case that many of you should be hopping on. But we know why you won't do that, because of the context of the case itself. You have multiple places to do it, with his case and the more recent one with the other student. This is a whole male teenager who masquerades themselves as trans or calls themselves as such just to assault other females, the opposite gender. And there are so many more out there like him. That's what makes this scary. That's exactly why those women at that spa went crazy in a good way against that one who went into that female restroom a couple months ago. But you had all those so-called trans activists going against them, saying they were transphobic. No, they were trying to protect themselves, and you were enabling. Just like the ones with this story are enabling bad behavior. Again, thus adding to the agenda that they try to claim does not exist, but we clearly can see and tell and hear that it does. No matter how much you try to flip it, slice it, dice it, remix it, however you want to put it, it is real. It is very real. I was never for that gender neutral bathroom restrooms anyway, because I said that just seems like a recipe for disaster. And this is the main ingredient. Like the context of the story, sexual assaulting of actual girls and women in that restroom. Notice that whenever they talk about, if it was say for example, a person who was a trans man or someone who was born a woman who now identifies and lives as a man, you never hear those kind of stories. when it comes to that. That means if they got the operation or whatever and they completely did a whole 360 to the point where you can't even tell that they were born a woman and they went into, a stall to use the restroom, they're just going to go in there, do the thing and get out like every other man that goes in and out of a restroom. But with this, they take it overboard. This boy strategically said he was a trans person just so he could sexually assault other girls. And we can have proof that that's what he did because he did it on 2 occasions at 2 different locations in the same year. It's a pattern. He's not doing this because he feels what they call a gender dysmorphia. He's doing it because he's, like the father said, a sexual predator. He's a sexual deviant. And that school board knows they are all the way messed up for not believing his story. Why would you make that up? That would have been messed up if he did, but clearly we can see that he wasn't. I would like to hear from the family of the other girl who was assaulted by this predator. I don't care that he's a minor, he's a predator. And the crazy and scary part about it is there are others out there just like him. What makes this story odd is the fact that he's so young. He's a minor. He's not over 18, like stories we've heard before of grown adults. He is a minor. He's in high school doing this. That's what makes it that's what makes it scary through it all, is that this isn't a grown man. This is a teenager, someone who probably doesn't have a job. He may not even have a driver's license. He probably doesn't pay not one bill. But he has all the time in the world to masquerade himself as such and such just so he could fulfill a fetish. A sick one at that. And if he's doing this now, imagine how he'll be when he becomes grown. They need to nip that in the bud ASAP if they haven't done so already. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this down in the comments.